The blind girlfriend I'd cared for 3 years could see again. My brother started impersonating me, romancing her in my place. When she came to my dressing room, my brother locked me in the bathroom. Through the crack in the door, I watched them lean in for a kiss, and a smile touched my lips. He had no idea, did he, that this blind girl was a psychopath who'd murdered her own parents. Later, he would be the one chained in a dark basement, his face destroyed, begging me to set him free. I'd look at him calmly and say, "Brother, I spent years in this place. Now it's your turn." The audience's applause was thunderous. I let out a quiet breath. My piano recital was finally over. The MC announced, "Let's give a hand to Ethan Miller for that incredible performance." And now, to offer her critique, please welcome the renowned pianist, Ms. Diana Blackwood. Diana Blackwood? At the sound of her name, I shot to my feet. My eyes lifted and locked with a pair of mesmerizing, fox-like eyes. My body recoiled a few steps on its own. My throat went tight. I tried to tear my gaze away, but my mind was a complete blank, aware of nothing but the frantic pounding of my heart. She could see? It's fine. Right now, my identity is Ethan. She's never seen my face before. There's no way she could recognize me. I forced a calm nod to the MC and hurried off the stage just before Diana walked on. I made a beeline for the backstage dressing room. I had performed as my brother's stand-in. My brother, Ethan Miller, was waiting for me there. My real name is Frank Miller. My heart was racing. I grabbed his arm. "We have to get out of here now." He stared at me in disbelief. "Frank, are you insane? Don't forget you're just my replacement. What right do you have to tell me to leave?" He wrenched his hand away, his voice dripping with smugness. "Diana Blackwood is on that stage right now. She's the head of the Blackwood family of New York City. She came here specifically to see me perform. I'm about to make it big." I shot back. "I was kidnapped and sold to the Blackwood family as a slave. Diana is not a good person." I made my point clear. "We cannot let her see us." He just scoffed. "Sold you to do what?" "Wash her feet," he sneered. "I think you're just jealous that she's into me." His words made it click. He and Diana, it must have been in contact for a while. I took a breath and lowered my voice. "If you get involved with her, believe me, you'll die a horrible death." He slapped me hard across the face. "Bullshit. Don't you dare try to stop me from getting this once-in-a-lifetime fortune." "Ethan," Diana's voice called from outside the door. My hand shook, knocking a glass of water off the table and sending it spilling across the floor. Her knocking grew more insistent. I immediately dropped to the floor, covering my head with my hands. Ethan yanked me to my feet and shoved me into the bathroom. "You dare make a sound and ruin this for me," he threatened, "and I'll skin you alive." I immediately clamped my mouth shut. Ethan opened the door and welcomed Diana inside. I crouched behind the bathroom door, frozen, not daring to make the slightest noise. Through the crack, I saw Diana gently stroke Ethan's face. "Ethan, I've been looking for you for so long." It was obvious. Diana could see again, but she had the wrong man. She thought my brother was me. Her eyes were filled with affection, her gaze lingering on Ethan. He took her hand and smiled. "Well, you found me now." Diana looked at Ethan, her expression suddenly hollow and disappointed. "But you don't seem to remember me." "That's all right," she continued. "We can forget all the bad memories. I'll be so good to you. Just don't ever leave me again. Or else." Before she could finish her sentence, Ethan silenced her with a kiss. It was urgent and possessive. Diana quickly melted into his arms. He shot a triumphant, provocative glance in my direction. I knew exactly what Diana had been about to say. She was going to say, "Or else I'll kill you." Diana was my ex-girlfriend, the sole heiress to the Blackwoods, one of New York's most powerful families. Beneath that stunningly beautiful exterior was the soul of a devil. During the 3 years I was her slave in New York, I endured every humiliation just to stay alive. The day I finally found my chance to escape, I plunged a knife into her chest with my own hands. If she ever caught me, I knew I would suffer a fate worse than death. After I escaped, I didn't go straight home. I drifted between several cities, and only after I was sure she wasn't looking for me did I return to my rural hometown, disguised as a beggar. I was too afraid of Diana finding me to go anywhere prominent, right up until my birth parents found me. My mother discovered I had a talent for the piano, and since Ethan also played, she had me practice with him. But my brother refused. He injured his own hand and framed me for it. My parents, always favoring him, decided I would impersonate him and perform in his place. I refused, so they threatened me with the grandmother who raised me. She was old and her health was failing. I had no choice but to give in, and so I regularly disguised myself as Ethan for his performances, and he built his entire reputation on my talent. It seemed that with Ethan in the picture, I was safe for now. I don't know how much time passed before Ethan and Diana finally left. I crept out of the bathroom, checked that the coast was clear, and then took a cab home. I rang the doorbell again and again, but no one answered. I'd left for the recital in such a hurry that I'd forgotten my keys in my room. It had to be Ethan refusing to let me in. Otherwise, after all this time, the housekeeper or one of the staff would have surely opened the door. Just as I turned to leave, the door swung open. I looked up, and the words of thanks I was about to utter died in my throat. The bag slipped from my grasp, its contents, my sheet music, scattering on the ground. I frantically knelt to gather the pages, my hands trembling uncontrollably. Ethan, I never imagined it would be Diana opening the door. She was wearing a stunning, smoky rose-colored gown, her long hair falling in soft curls. She was beautiful and terrifying, but I knew that beneath that beautiful facade was a demon from hell. Ethan rushed to the doorway. "You're a guest. You should be relaxing." The staff would have gotten the door for him. "Ethan, I just heard the doorbell ringing so insistently, and since I wasn't doing anything, I thought I'd get it." Diana's attention shifted completely to Ethan. I fought down the overwhelming urge to run, keeping my head bowed and my knuckles white on the strap of my bag. She glanced at me, then said nonchalantly, "Is it your brother? You two look so much alike." Ethan quickly took her hand. "He's my twin." She smiled, a captivating curve of her lips. "Your brother seems a little afraid of me. He's always had some social anxiety," Ethan said, trying to lead her inside. Diana didn't budge. "What's his name?" she asked again. "Frank. Frank," she repeated. "Even the names are similar." Ethan gave an awkward laugh and then wrapped his arm around her waist, guiding her inside. As he passed, he shot me a look that was a clear threat. I had no intention of going down for dinner, but Diana insisted Ethan bring me to the table. The moment I sat down, she pushed a dish toward me, a fish smothered in fiery red chili peppers. "Ethan said you weren't hungry. I thought maybe you just needed your appetite stimulated. I hear spicy food does the trick. You should try some." The tiny red peppers covered the entire fish. It looked incredibly hot. Without a word, I picked up my fork and began to eat. On the outside, I was a mask of calm, but inside, my stomach was already in turmoil. The moment Diana pushed that dish in front of me, I knew it was a test. Because I can't eat spicy food. The kidnappers who took me had abused me, damaging my digestive system. Anything spicy would trigger excruciating stomach pain. Once she learned that Diana would punish me whenever she was displeased by forcing me to eat incredibly spicy things. The worst was being forced to eat raw chili peppers. Coincidentally, Ethan also avoided spicy food, claiming it was bad for his complexion. Eating a fish this spicy would either land me in the hospital or force me to suffer through agony. Afraid she might recognize my voice if I spoke, I just silently ate the entire thing without a word. My behavior at dinner perfectly fit Ethan's description of me having social anxiety. Seeing me eat with such apparent enjoyment, a flicker of disappointment crossed Diana's face. After dinner, I forced myself to walk back to my room, holding back the pain. The second the door closed, I collapsed onto the floor. In the living room, Diana stared at the empty plate, her eyes unreadable as she pictured the peppers that had covered the fish. She spoke, her tone light and teasing. "Ethan, does your brother really like spicy food that much?" "I guess so," Ethan answered casually. "Ethan, I don't think I'll leave tonight. How about I stay in your guest room?" Diana asked, her voice nonchalant as she toyed with a small, elegant fan. Ethan was ecstatic. He would have let her sleep in his own room, let alone the guest room. A wave of intense pain washed over me. I curled into a ball on the floor, my fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. I couldn't believe Diana was actually staying the night. I stuffed a towel in my mouth to muffle any sounds, then wrapped myself in my comforter on the floor, letting the waves of agony consume me. My body trembled, and her unique scent filled the air around me. She gently undid the buttons of my shirt, tilting my chin up with her hand. "Be a good boy, Ethan. Drink this for me, won't you?" She poured the drugged water down my throat, her body pressing down on mine. "Ethan, I'm of age now. Won't you take me?" The drug kicked in. My ragged breaths filled the room as a searing heat threatened to consume me. My mind grew foggy, and I lost control of my own body. But Diana's smile only grew wider, more delighted. She wrapped her arms around my neck. "You'll stay with me forever, won't you?" "Yes," I gasped, so lost in the haze I barely knew my own name. "Swear you'll love me forever." "I swear I'll love you forever." "Would it be all right if I carved my name into your skin?" "Yes." She smiled, a seductive and bewitching sight. "Don't be afraid, Ethan. Pierce me. Let's become one, and I'll let you rest for tonight." "Yes." I shot upright in bed, drenched in sweat. Another nightmare. I was dreaming of Diana's torment all over again. I instinctively looked around the room, my heart slowly calming. I was at the Miller's house, not the Blackwood estate. A sour smell rose from my body. I looked down to see my clothes were soaked through with sweat and hopelessly wrinkled. The door to my room was suddenly kicked open. Ethan, dressed in some expensive, vintage-style clothes, leaned against the frame. His dark eyes scanned me with contempt. "Frank, Diana will be mine sooner or later. You'd better not get any funny ideas. See this?" he preened. "She embroidered this shirt for me with her own hands. And today, she's taking me to her family's stables." I was silent for a few seconds, and then I smiled. The nicer Diana was to Ethan, the safer I was. I'm no saint, but I never pushed him to walk into the lion's den. This was all his own doing. "When you're picking out horses," I said casually, "choose a red one for her." "What's that supposed to mean?" "She likes the color red." His lips parted as if to argue, but then he must have remembered what I'd told him about being sold to the Blackwood family. That, combined with Diana's inexplicable fondness for him and her claims about his amnesia, made him believe me. "What else do you know about her? Tell me now. Why should I tell you anything?" "I heard your grandma needs an operation. You help me win Diana over, and I'll pay for the whole thing." I replied coldly, "Talk is cheap." "I'll give you half right now," he said, looking at me through gritted teeth. He tossed a debit card at my feet. "There's $50,000 in there." "Deal," I said quietly. "When you're with Diana, you can't eat anything spicy. Not even a little. That's all for now. I'll tell you more when you get back." He threatened that if I was lying, he'd make sure my grandma and I met in the afterlife. Ethan even hired a few guys to watch me, to make sure I didn't go looking for Diana. As if I was doing everything I could to avoid her. After a shower, I sat in my room, my thoughts returning to Diana, taking Ethan to the stables. Back when she was blind, she could only experience the world through Braille. But she was a true genius. Even limited to touch, her intellect was beyond compare. She was reckless. Even blind, she insisted on doing dangerous things like horseback riding, and I was responsible for her safety. If she got hurt, I was the one who got punished. And she loved the color red most of all, because as she said, red was the color of blood. It was the color, she claimed, that was innate to her very being. I still remember it clearly. I had asked her, "The black of your hair is innate too. Why don't you like black?" She gave me a playful smile, and then plunged a knife into my arm. "Because red," she'd said, "is the only color I can be certain we both share." The next day, Ethan burst into my room, his face alight with triumph. I picked the red horse for her, and she loved it. I was so close last night, so close to spending the night with her. But she said we should wait until we're married. My heart jumped. I tried to sound casual. "So did she ask you anything?" "Yeah. She asked me why I picked the red one." I kept my voice steady. "And what did you say?" "Oh," Ethan said, "I told her I just had a subconscious feeling she'd like it." I let out a breath of relief, but I had to ask one more thing. "Did she punish you at all? Like, did she ask to card anything on you?" Diana's possessiveness over me had been absolute. If someone else so much as looked at me for too long, she was capable of gouging their eyes out. She had wanted to carve her name on my body, but she said she wanted to wait until she could do it with her own hands. Luckily for me, I escaped before that could happen. "No," Ethan said. "She's been incredibly gentle. She'll do anything I ask. She said as long as I promise not to leave her, she'll do anything." I found Ethan's words hard to believe. The Diana I knew was a queen holding the power of life and death, and I was merely her slave. My only option was to obey. Any resistance brought swift and certain punishment. Although, he added, she did pick out 2 gifts for me before I left. I shot up from my chair, my heart leaping into my throat. "She picked out 2 jade pendants," Ethan said, pushing a small box toward me. "She said since you're my brother, she got one for you too." Staring at the jade, my heart began to race. "She picked this out specifically?" "Yeah. I had no idea she was into antiques like this." "You idiot. Diana never cared for things like this. I was the one who did." She craved extreme thrills, the madness of walking along a cliff's edge. She was an absolute lunatic. I cursed under my breath. The odds were high that Diana was testing me again. I was about to say something when a commotion erupted outside the room. A moment later, our housekeeper rushed in, pushing my door open without knocking. His face was pale with anxiety. "It's Diana Blackwood," he stammered. "She's here." Downstairs, Diana was lounging on the sofa, her long hair draped over her shoulders, looking effortlessly alluring. Her eyes were locked directly on me as the housekeeper practically dragged me into the room. "So your name is Frank?" she purred. "But why won't you say a single word to me?" "Diana, you remember, he has social anxiety," Ethan chimed in, looking at her with a fawning expression. Is that so? She blinked, her voice taking on an aggrieved tone. But we've met several times now. You won't even say hello. Hello, MS. Blackwood, I said, cutting Ethan off before he could speak. The moment the words left my mouth, a flicker of disappointment crossed Diana's bright eyes. I had intentionally taken an ice bath earlier, hoping to catch a cold. It worked. My voice was deep and raspy, completely different from the one she knew when she was blind. Diana looked at me with disappointment, then glanced at Ethan, a hint of confusion in her eyes. I seized the opportunity, mumbled an excuse, and escaped to the kitchen. I planned to eat a couple of ice cream bars from the freezer to make my throat even worse. I opened the freezer and rummaged around, deliberately picking out the two most frozen bars I could find. When I closed the door and turned around, Diana was standing silently right behind me, her dark eyes fixed on me with an unnerving intensity. I held the ice cream bars and quickly stepped to the side, ready to bolt. But she only gave me a cursory glance before looking away. Just as I turned to leave, however, she stopped me. Could you grab me a drink? A smile suddenly bloomed on her previously blank face, but it sent a chill down my spine, as if I were enveloped in a cold, dark mist. On pure instinct, I grabbed a can of soda from the fridge, popped the tab, and handed it to her. She thanked me politely. I turned and headed upstairs without a second's hesitation, and she left the kitchen just as quickly. Back in my room, I sank to the floor, completely drained. I've been Diana's slave for 3 years. No one knew her better than I did. When she was near, I could sense the most subtle shift in her mood. I thought about her ruthlessness. As an illegitimate daughter, she had managed to secretly eliminate every threat to her position within the Blackwood family, all while making the patriarch, Alistair Blackwood, dote on her as if she were a priceless treasure. After she and I slept together, Alistair found out. He had me locked in a dark basement and tortured for 3 days and nights. At the time, I thought it would be better to just die, but the thought of my grandmother, the woman who raised me, gave me the strength to endure. I never found out exactly how I got out of that basement. All I know is that Diana threatened to take her own life, forcing Alistair to release me. Since my daughter has taken an interest in you, consider it your good fortune, he had told me. But remember, you are nothing more than her dog, and a dog's job is to wag its tail and please its master. I've had cameras installed everywhere, and this bracelet on your wrist is a miniature explosive. If you dare to harm Diana, I'll make sure there isn't enough of you left to bury. From that day forward, I spent every waking moment with Diana. But I lived like a machine. I did whatever Diana commanded. She could hit me, scream at me, torture me, and I would show no reaction. After I attempted to kill myself several times, she finally started to panic. She began taking me out with her, cautiously asking what I wanted or needed. The day I escaped, I convinced her to take me to an amusement park. I told her it would be more fun with a crowd, so I insisted she not have the park cleared out for us. There, while she was feeling her way around one of the rides, I plunged a knife in her chest and fled in the ensuing chaos. As for the explosive bracelet, she had already removed it. I had considered using it to kill myself, and she was afraid I'd go through with it. When I stabbed her, she didn't scream. She didn't even cry. She just touched the handle of the knife in her chest with a dazed expression, and then, slowly, she began to laugh. My blood ran cold. With no time to wonder what she meant by it, I just ran for my life. Looking back now, I realized I should have aimed for her heart. The ice cream bars in my hand had long since melted, dripping all over my clothes. As I calmed down, I replayed the scene in the kitchen. Diana had asked for a drink. I'd given her a soda. How had I handed it to her? Oh no, I had instinctively popped the tab before handing it to her. That was a habit from my past life, something the old me would do for her without thinking. I shot to my feet, a powerful sense of dread washing over me. What do? Does she know? I glanced at my phone. It was already midnight. 3 or 4 hours had passed since the incident in the kitchen. If she knew, surely she would have come for me by now. I quickly packed a bag. I had to leave the Miller house. I couldn't risk betting that she hadn't noticed. Frank, where do you think you're going? I froze at the door. Ethan was blocking my way, along with my parents. Ethan spoke slowly. You said you were sold to the Blackwood family. I didn't believe you at first, but after seeing how Diana has been acting, I believe you weren't lying. He paused. She really loved you back then, didn't she? His eyes were filled with jealousy. I frowned, saying flatly, she's not a good person. I'm telling you to stay away from her. Frank, you're just jealous. It must kill you inside, seeing how much Diana likes me now, huh? I'm telling you, she's mine. So you'd better keep your mouth shut. Ethan used every threat and promise he could think of, all for the chance to latch onto Diana's wealth and status. It wasn't just Ethan. My parents also saw Diana as our family's golden ticket. My mother's first words to me were a reprimand. Do you have any idea who Miss Blackwood is? She's the head of the Blackwood family. This is the Miller family's chance to finally make it. So don't you dare screw this up. Diana is not a good person. She's a loud thud cut me off as my father's foot connected with my stomach, sending me to the floor. You live in my house. You eat my food. Are you trying to ruin my future out of spite? I didn't say a word. I just clutched my aching stomach and staggered toward the door. I was done with this family. Frank, my mother's voice stopped me. Don't you want the money to save your grandmother's life? Her words stopped me in my tracks. I turned to face her. Ethan and I were born in our family's rural hometown, but our parents were superstitious. A fortune teller told them that our combined fates would negatively impact the family's destiny, and that one of us had to be left behind in the country. They chose me, so I was left in the countryside, raised by an elderly couple. It wasn't until I tested into the best middle school in the city that my parents, deciding I might be of some use after all, finally brought me home. But that same year, Ethan and I were kidnapped together. The family only had enough money to pay the ransom for one of us. Without a moment's hesitation, my parents chose to save Ethan. I remember what my mother said then. Frank has only just come back to the city. We haven't even officially told anyone about him yet. As far as anyone knows, the Miller family only has one son, Ethan. As for Frank, well, that's just his fate. And just like that, I was left behind. The kidnappers sold me to human traffickers, who in turn sold me to the Blackwood family. I became Diana's shadow, forced to do whatever she did. That's how I learned to play the piano, right alongside her. If I had the choice, I would have never returned to the Millers. My mother continued in a slow, deliberate voice. Your grandmother needs a liver transplant. She's an old woman, in her 70s. Without treatment soon, she probably only has a few years left, don't you think? My grandmother's surgery would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But because I've been hiding from Diana, I haven't been able to earn any real money these past few years. I couldn't afford to help her, and she's the only real family I have left. I choked on my words. What do you want from me? It's simple, Ethan said with a smirk. We want you to leave the Miller family forever, and never see Diana Blackwood again. Grandma, it's time to go. I had driven back to our small town overnight. After packing all our things, I stood in the yard, trying to hurry my grandmother along. I had agreed to the Millers' terms. They abandoned me first. It wasn't a difficult bond for me to break. As for the condition of never seeing Diana again, that suited me perfectly. I could only hope Ethan would be able to handle Diana's special brand of kindness on his own. Ethan, my grandmother said reluctantly, are we really leaving? I sighed. I knew she didn't want to go. She had lived here for decades. This place was a part of her soul. But I couldn't guarantee Diana wouldn't find me, and for my grandmother's safety, we had to disappear. In addition to my grandmother's medical fund, the Millers gave me a hefty sum to sever all ties. They even used their connections to arrange passports and visas for us overnight. With that money, I could get my grandmother treatment abroad and ensure she could live out the rest of her years in peace. Grandma, I know you don't want to leave, but I have my reasons. We can have a good life overseas. I added gently, and my name is Frank, not Ethan. My grandmother mumbled, I'll listen to you, dear. But your name was originally Ethan. It's such a strong, beautiful name. I prayed so hard for that name for you. If it wasn't for the Millers, it's okay, Grandma. That's all in the past. We need to get to the airport now, or we'll miss our flight. The name, Ethan, was one my grandmother had sought for me from a holy man, who said the name carried great fortune. When I returned to the Miller family, my brother decided he was the chosen son, and I was just bad luck. He believed a name with such a powerful destiny should belong to him. My parents, who spoiled him endlessly, agreed and gave my name to him. From that day on, I was known as Frank. This is my first time on an airplane, my grandmother said, her eyes wide with excitement. If you like it, Grandma, I said, I'll make sure you get to fly often from now on. I would take her to see the world. Really? Oh, I'll have to tell your grandfather all about it. I dreamed of him just the other night. He told me to take care of myself and live a long, long life. I froze for a moment. My grandpa and grandma had raised me since I was a baby. Their own child had died young, and they treated me like their own flesh and blood. But my grandpa passed away in an accident when I was in grade school, leaving just the two of us to rely on each other. When I was kidnapped, the Millers lied to my grandmother, telling her I'd gone to study abroad. She never said much, but she worried about me every day. When I finally returned, she asked why I hadn't sent a single letter in all those years. She had no idea the Millers had abandoned me to be sold off. The airport was a sea of people. I held my grandmother's hand tightly as we navigated our way to the departure gate. We still had some time before boarding, and neither of us had eaten breakfast, so I decided to go buy her something. Grandma, you wait right here. don't move. I'm going to get you something to eat. Don't you worry, Frank. I'll be a good girl and wait right here for you. I made sure she was settled, then found a small shop and bought some snacks that would be easy on her stomach. The moment I stepped out of the shop, I knew something was wrong. The terminal, which had been bustling with people just minutes ago, was now eerily empty. My heart leaped into my throat. I raced back to where I'd left my grandmother. The spot was empty. All that was left on the chair was a small digital recorder. As if compelled by some unseen force, I bent down and pressed the play button. A few seconds of static crackled, and then silence. Just as I started to stand, a voice suddenly filled the air. "Ethan, I found you." The cheerful, lilting voice echoed through the empty terminal, seeming to come from everywhere at once. I stumbled backward in terror. A pair of hands pressed against my back, stopping me. I spun around. Diana. After the initial wave of terror came a flood of hopeless resignation. Not far from her stood rows of men in black suits. The entire airport, I realized, must be surrounded by her people. She had truly left me with no way out. "My grandmother," I demanded. "Where did you take her?" She just stared at me, her eyes filled with a look of profound hurt. "Is that really the first thing you have to say to me?" So, she knew everything. There was no point in pretending anymore. I turned to walk away, but she shoved me back down into the chair. "Ethan, was our little game of hide-and-seek fun? I've been looking for you for such a long time. I missed you so much I nearly went insane." I tried to stand, but she threw herself on top of me, her voice dropping to a sinister whisper. "I knew it was you from the very first moment I saw you. But why didn't you come to me? I waited all last night for you to come to me. Why didn't you? Why did you try to run away?" I remained perfectly still, letting her press down on me, as memories of all the days and nights I'd spent with her came flooding back. The light was receding, and the darkness was closing in. I was falling into an abyss. I murmured, "Diana, you have power, you have wealth. If you wanted, you could have anyone in the world. So why won't you just let me go?" "Because I only love you," she whispered, and then she bit down hard on my neck. My fingernails scraped against the vinyl of the chair, making a sharp, tearing sound. I was truly terrified. Diana was an absolute lunatic. I forced myself to stay calm. My grandmother was still in her hands. "Diana, calm down. Are you trying to kill me?" "Well, that's not entirely out of the question," she said with a beautiful smile, her eyes glinting with madness. I stared right back at her. After a long moment, I said calmly, "Then do it. Kill me. I'm so sorry, Grandma, but I just can't do this anymore." Perhaps the dead, empty look in my eyes frightened her, because she suddenly seemed flustered. "Ethan, I didn't really mean that. I was just so angry. I couldn't understand why you ran away." She started rambling, and then her words dissolved into sobs. "My grandmother." I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them and asked again, "Where did you take my grandmother?" "She's safe. She's perfectly safe. Just please come back with me." Phoenix. There was no escape, so I would stop trying to run. I went back with Diana. She didn't let me see my grandmother, but she showed me a video of her. She was being well cared for. The last thing she said in the video was, "Frank, dear, is Diana your girlfriend? She's so beautiful. I like her very much. You two take care of each other." After we returned from the airport, Diana never left my side. She still insisted on calling me Ethan. And just like in the old days, I found myself doing her hair, helping with her makeup, and sitting with her while she read. The only difference was that now, I wasn't her slave. I was her lover, her supposed equal. We acted just like a real, loving couple. But it was all just an act. After more than a month of this cloying charade, Diana's guard started to drop. One day, she had to leave on business with her security team. I managed to slip away from the man she'd left to watch me and snuck out of the house. I went to meet Diana's frenemy, Julian Vance, the heir to another of New York's most powerful families. I sat in the cafe we'd agreed upon, quietly sipping my coffee and gazing out the large window. Tiny rice-sized snowflakes drifted down through the weak sunlight. As time passed, the little warmth there was faded completely, and the snow began to fall in earnest. The door opened, and a tall, imposing man in a black overcoat walked in, his features sharp and handsome. His gaze was cool, his voice low. "Julian Vance, Diana Blackwood's frenemy, Frank Miller." As the snow swirled outside the window, we began a plot. When I returned to the Blackwood estate, Diana was waiting for me right inside the door. "Ethan, where have you been?" It was getting stuffy inside. I said smoothly, "I went for a walk, and I brought you back a treat." I held up the small box from the bakery. I'd stopped it on the way back. Her dark expression immediately brightened. Her voice was light and cheerful as she spoke. As we walked inside, she said suddenly, "Ethan, let's get married." I froze. I finally asked the question that had been bothering me for weeks. What about your father? Would he approve? I hadn't seen Alistair Blackwood once since I'd been back. Oh, him? He's dead. How'd he die? He got sick, she said, her tone breezy. You know how it is when people get old. A simple cold can be enough to take them out. Alistair had been in perfect health when I escaped. My throat felt tight. You did it, didn't you? I did, she admitted without a trace of shame. I must have looked terrified because she reached out and gently stroked my face. Don't worry, she cooed. I'll never let anyone hurt you, not even me. She was a complete lunatic. I doubt she even knew how many of her own family members had died by her hand. Let's get married. I'll always protect you, she said, hugging me and resting her head on my chest. My eyes are healed now. After we're married, we can travel, see all the beautiful sights. We can go anywhere you want. We can do all of those things without being married. I countered, but I'll only feel at ease once we are. I understood then. She believed marriage was a chain that would bind me to her forever. The day before the wedding, Diana took me to see my parents and brother. We went down to a dim basement filled with gruesome instruments of torture. They were all horribly familiar to me. I had experienced each and every one of them firsthand. Frank, help me. Please, make her let me out. Ethan cried, grabbing onto my leg. Diana kicked him away with contempt. The main lights flickered on, and I finally got a clear look at him. He was chained to the wall, his body covered in blood, his face a ruined mess of overlapping scars. He was disfigured. I looked at him calmly. Brother, I spent years in this place. Now it's your turn. Frank, are you here to save me? My mother sobbed. This place is horrible. You have to get me out of here. Frank, it was all my fault before. I never should have hit you. Please, let us go. The three of them groveled on the floor, my parents looking at me as if I were their only hope. I froze. It was the first time I had ever seen myself reflected in their eyes. How ironic. How pathetic. I looked at them without emotion. Didn't you disown me? My father had paid me a significant amount of money to sever all ties with the family. Frank, my mother screamed, we are your birth parents. Are you going to commit patricide and matricide? You gave up on me first, I sneered. When Ethan and I were kidnapped, you chose to save him without a second thought. What was it you said? I looked directly at my mother. You said the Miller family only has one son, Ethan. As for Frank, well, that's just his fate. My mother crumpled to the floor. My father stared at me in utter despair, and my brother just sat there, his expression vacant. When we were first taken, I believed with all my heart that my parents would come for me. But then, one by one, the other captives were ransomed and released. Even Ethan was gone. The kidnappers themselves mocked me, calling me the pathetic one nobody wanted. I was tortured, trafficked, and treated like livestock. And in the end, I was sold to Diana Blackwood to be her plaything. If she hadn't found me interesting, I would have been dead long ago. It's almost funny in a twisted way. Stepping out of the basement and into the sunlight, I finally felt alive again. You don't seem surprised, Diana commented, standing beside me. Surprised about what? Ethan's face. I replied, there's nothing to be surprised about. I know you. I knew Diana. She would never allow someone she despised to walk around with a face identical to mine. She laced her fingers through mine. We really are meant for each other. I squeezed her hand back. Let them go, I said. Consider it good karma for our marriage. The wedding day arrived. Diana walked toward me in a breathtaking, traditional wedding gown, but she wore no veil. She said she wouldn't be able to see me if she did. She glanced at the officiant and asked casually, have you been replaced? I don't remember you being part of the team I hired. The officiant gave a sycophantic smile. I'm new, ma'am. Our team leader is just over there in the back. Diana followed his gaze and saw the man he was pointing to. The music began to play, and the officiant started the ceremony. A union of two families, a bond of two souls, a blessed connection to last for all time. With this vow of lifelong companionship, let this sacred pledge be recorded. First, you bow to the heavens. Second, you bow to your elders. And third, to each other. A deafening gunshot echoed through the hall, and the wedding erupted into chaos. Diana's guards were swiftly taken down as rows of police officers swarmed into the room. She grabbed my arm, trying to pull me back, but we were instantly surrounded. She pressed a gun to my head. Did you call them? Diana Blackwood, you're surrounded. Release the hostage, the lead officer yelled through a bullhorn. Why? She whispered, her voice shaking. Ethan, why would you do this? Because I never loved you. I answered her calmly, a stark contrast to her frantic desperation. Before the wedding, I met with your frenemy, Julian Vance. I helped him gather all the evidence of your crimes. Everything. The financial crimes, the murders of your family members, all of it. The evidence was turned over to the police before the ceremony even started. I reached out and gently took hold of the gun. Diana, it's over. Give up. There's no turning back for me, she screamed, shoving me away. The officer who had posed as the officiant, thinking she was about to harm me, fired his weapon. Diana twisted away, but the bullet still caught her in the arm. She gave a broken laugh. My mother abandoned me at birth, all because I was a girl. When I finally returned to the Blackwood family, they all looked down on me because I was the shameful, illegitimate child. Even Alistair only acknowledged me because everyone else in his precious family was already dead. I had never seen her look so fragile. Suddenly, her eyes locked with mine. Ethan, I don't regret meeting you. I only regret the timing wasn't right. She let out a wild laugh. I, Diana Blackwood, may have started with nothing, but how many people in this world could ever compare to me? Frank, she said, her voice suddenly clear. Let's meet again in the next life. And with that, she turned the gun on herself, aimed it at her heart, and pulled the trigger. Diana was dead. She left her entire fortune to me. She had also arranged and paid for my grandmother's surgery. When I finally saw my grandmother, she was in a physical therapy session, learning to walk again with the help of a nurse. As I had promised Julian Vance, I signed over control of the Blackwood corporate empire to him. I only took the liquid assets, all of which I donated to various charities. Julian asked me, "She did so much for you, even gave her life. Do you have any regrets?" "No regrets," I said with a sigh. "If it weren't for her, I never would have suffered so much. She may have loved me, but that doesn't erase all the pain she caused. It would be a lie to say I wasn't moved by her death, but it's only the regret one feels for the loss of a brilliant mind. A love like hers, built on a foundation of pain, was too heavy a burden for me to carry." Julian let out a low chuckle. "Take care of yourself, my friend. If you ever need anything, you know where to find me." The bitter winter finally came to an end. I took my grandmother traveling. With Diana gone, I was finally free to live my life and earn a living without fear. But still, from time to time, I would think of her. I don't think I will ever meet anyone quite like her again.